Ace has been one of the most influential characters in One Piece, and he is one of the most essential components for arguably the most significant arc in the One Piece world. But what if he battled against the most malicious character in the series? This is why Doflamingo vs. Ace wouldn't be a close fight. But in order to find out who wins this fight, let's take a look at what each of them has to present. To begin, the 2nd Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, Ace's position wasn't just granted to him. He obtained it through his own strength. Everyone else minimizes him because of what was emphasized during Marineford. He lost against Blackbeard and Akainu, but if we go back to his fight against Blackbeard, it was a very close fight. Ace confronted Blackbeard without having any prior knowledge about Blackbeard's devil fruit or fighting style, because Blackbeard was a very discreet pirate on Whitebeard's ship. He portrayed himself as someone he wasn't. He constantly denied promotion opportunities and even falsified information about his dreams, which he said at the time was the clear fruit. Additionally, neither Ace nor Whitebeard were aware of Blackbeard having the strength to scar Shanks, but even then, he still put up a fight. He was piercing Blackbeard with his fire and demonstrating to us that he wasn't simply a devil fruit user. Blackbeard's smartest crewmate was surprised to see Ace's fighting capability without his devil fruit. This fight did end with Ace losing, but that was because Blackbeard directly countered Ace's devil fruit. Ace competing against a character who had one of the most broken devil fruits while unaware of its actual powers should show you how strong Ace actually is. Moving on, Ace would fight out Aokiji and Akainu in Marineford and be able to match Aokiji's powers. Ace did end up falling to Akainu. However, it would be unfair to hold this against Ace because he ultimately lost to him because of his devil fruit disparity. At the time, Akainu was the strongest admiral and was able to challenge Whitebeard while holding back because he didn't want to destroy Marineford. However, because Oda himself and the magazine that publishes One Piece authorized it, the Ace novel, which is canonical to one storyline, revealed Ace's true strength. In the Ace novel, Ace fought Whitebeard and Jinbei in his primary fights. For days on end, Ace was at a severe disadvantage because Jinbei's fishman karate possessed the ability to utilize water to negate Ace's devil fruit. Yet Ace was still strong enough to make up for his disadvantage. Ace was likewise unharmed by Jinbei's haki punches, but because of Jinbei's inherent advantage, the fight would go on for a long time. After that, Ace would battle Whitebeard numerous times until the 100th match, in which Ace would demonstrate his incredible improvement in observation haki. Even after this attack, Ace was still standing and prepared to fight, but he eventually passed out and received his 99th loss. This would still not be Ace's peak because Ace was using his attacks to predict Whitebeard's movements and to accelerate his speed. In the end, Ace burned Whitebeard's palm and forced Whitebeard to use his quake powers, splitting an entire island in half. This time, when Ace faced Whitebeard for the 100th time, Jinbei observed the fight and was astounded by how much Ace had improved. He knew that Ace could compete with the big boys, and to prove to everyone that Ace was no longer on Jinbei's level, he even declared that Ace was prepared for a full-on fight. However, this wasn't an enhancement from Jinbei, because during the previous few chapters, Ace had been practicing his observation haki non-stop with Thatch, which was his weakest point in his repertoire, and it gradually improved throughout his fights with Whitebeard. Additionally, the scene demonstrated that Whitebeard wasn't holding back against Ace, as Ace witnessed himself die at the hands of Whitebeard with his observation haki. He later dodges and reacts against Whitebeard's attacks. He was also able to block a full-on Conqueror's haki-coded attack from Whitebeard. For comparison, this feat was superior to Gear 4 Luffy at the start of Wano because, as we all remember, Kaido's Thunder Bagua blitzed Luffy. At this point, Whitebeard and Kaido are comparable because Whitebeard is stabilized and taking his medication. Next, Ace would use his final attack, leaving Whitebeard in shock and his own crew wondering if Whitebeard would be able to withstand such an attack without suffering a serious injury. However, Whitebeard would go on to tank the attack with his own devil fruit, ending the fight and, subsequently, Ace officially joining Whitebeard's crew. Moving on to Doflamingo. I've discussed him on my channel once before, so if you want to see a more in-depth look at his strength, watch this after this video. In summary, he was strong enough to push Luffy into Gear 4 and overwhelm Law, but Luffy was utilizing Gear 4 to drive Doflamingo into the ground. Despite only having a slight advantage thanks to his awakening, Luffy's Gear 4 ultimately defeated Doflamingo. Although Doflamingo also has the ability to repair his organs, his strings are so powerful that they can cut through massive buildings as if they were an actual sword slash. Now, let's compare their hockey skills. We know that Ace is a novice when it comes to future sight, which is exactly how Luffy was generally seeing the future when he was fighting Katakuri. By the way, I'm only referring to the Ace that was fighting Whitebeard. Given that Ace is renowned for his quick improvements and that his hockey did seem to be developing to the point where it allows him to predict future occurrences with any degree of accuracy, Ace most likely became much stronger after a few years. Doflamingo possesses observation hockey as well, but not to the point where he can see the future like Katakuri. As a result, Ace triumphs in observation hockey due to his feats. Ace also takes armament hockey because his mastery over this would be over his future sight, and because observation hockey is the weakest element of his arsenal. If you're still not convinced, consider the fact that Gear 2 and Gear 4 Luffy's hockey outperformed Doflamingo's, while Ace was able to repel Whitebeard's full-power Devil Fruit and Conqueror hockey attacks using only his Devil Fruit and hockey. If that's not convincing enough, we can go back to Jinbei's statement about Ace, in which he expressed shock at Ace's incredible improvement in contrast to how he wasn't impressed by Luffy's improvement over the time skip, and this same Luffy was able to match Doflamingo in Gear 2. So this would make Ace at the very least comparable to Luffy during the Dressrosa arc. Since Ace is a tremendous learner, it's likely that this gap will widen even more over the next few years. Let's take this a little more in depth before we simulate the fight to see how they compare stat-wise. Ace is above Jinbei because he was able to meet Jinbei at a standstill while he was at an elemental disadvantage. Furthermore, since Ace is a tremendous learner, it's likely that this gap will widen even more over the next few years. We can use Luffy as the middleman to connect Ace's feats with Doflamingo. We are aware that Ace was tanking Jinbei's techniques with little to no damage during their fight on Fishman Island, whereas Luffy suffered injuries as a result of Jinbei's Fishman karate. Because Ace has improved over time more than Jinbei, Ace should be able to replicate this tanking scene even after Luffy's time skip. Furthermore, we know that even before he fought Whitebeard hundreds of times, Ace's durability should already be greater than that of Gear 2 Luffy, and this same Luffy managed to damage Doflamingo. Ace should therefore be able to perform the same task, if not more, by virtue. Ace also has the speed to strike Doflamingo and avoid Doflamingo's attacks since he was able to dodge and tag Whitebeard during their last fight. And this particular Whitebeard was also in a fixed condition, so he wasn't the same as his weakened self that was at Marineford. So he should already measure above Doflamingo in every aspect that we went over, but the issue for this fight would be Doflamingo's awakening. We know that when Doflamingo used it against Gear 4 Luffy, he was able to kind of hold his own, but we recognize at the conclusion of the struggle that Luffy overwhelmed Doflamingo's awakening. Now, would Ace be able to do the exact same thing? The answer would be yes. He was capable of blocking much stronger attacks from Whitebeard and even went as far as to hurt Whitebeard with his Devil Fruit numerous times. And one more prevalent misunderstanding about this fight is that Doflamingo's fruit is stronger than Ace's because it's awakened. This is false because we know that some fruits can be stronger than others even without an awakening. A good example would be a comparison between Whitebeard's Quake Fruit and Katakuri's Mochi Mochi Fruit. The Quake Fruit triumphs in every way, and now that the battle is taking place in Dressrosa, Doflamingo will be able to make the most of his awakening. These two characters will also be bloodthirsty. They would start trading moves with their Devil Fruits, but Ace would have the upper hand because his Haki and Devil Fruit are stronger than those of Doflamingo. After that, Doflamingo would use his awakening, but Ace would finally put an end to this by sending the Flame Commandment and completely obliterating Doflamingo. That would conclude the matchup. If you enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more versus battles like this. Check out my previous video on the finale of Attack on Titan Explained.